In the last few years, more and more Americans have been quietly asking the same question. Is it time to leave the US? Because the cost of living keeps rising. Taxes feel heavier every year, and healthcare. Well, you already know it's the most expensive in the developed world. For many people, the math simply doesn't work anymore. And every time we release a video about moving abroad, one request always shows up in the comments. Talk about Europe. Give us the easiest countries in Europe. But here's the truth, most people don't realize. Not every beautiful, famous European country is actually easy to move to. Some places look perfect on Instagram until you see the visa requirements, the income, rules, the tax system, and the reality of how hard it is to get long-term residency. That's why today we're breaking it all down clearly and honestly. In this video, you'll discover the 5 easiest countries in Europe for Americans based on real practical criteria. Visa requirements that actually make sense. Reasonable income thresholds. Tax rules that won't overwhelm you. Pathways to temporary stay, long-term residency, and eventually PR. And real-life experiences from Americans already living there. If you've been dreaming of Europe but don't know where to start, this list will save you months of confusion. And trust me, stick around to the end because one on this list is shockingly easy for Americans. Selection criteria. Before we jump into the list, there's one important thing you need to know. We didn't pick these countries at random. Every country in this video was chosen based on 5 very real, very practical criteria, the kind that can determine whether you can actually live in Europe or not. First, the country must offer real obtainable visas, not fantasy programs or impossible requirements. Retirement. Visas, long-stay visas, digital, nomad visas, entrepreneurial visas, but only if they're truly achievable for the average American. Second, the income and savings requirements must make sense. Not $7,000 a month, not $100,000 sitting in a bank account. Only the kind of financial thresholds a normal American living on Social Security, personal savings, or remote income can realistically meet. Third, the country needs to have a tax treaty with the United States to reduce the risk of double taxation. A mistake many new expats make when they don't understand the rules. Fourth, the cost of living must be reasonable, especially for retirees or remote workers living on fixed income. A place can be beautiful, but if it drains your savings, it's not a real option. And finally, we only chose countries that have been proven through real-life expat experiences, safety, friendliness of the local community, public transportation, how widely English is spoken, all the things that determine whether you can actually live comfortably day to day. 5. Portugal. At number 5, we have Portugal. A country that keeps appearing in every expat conversation for one simple reason: it's one of the most welcoming places in Europe for Americans who want stability, sunshine, and a softer cost of living. Visa options: simple, real, and achievable. Portugal offers 2 of the most practical visas for Americans, the D7 Passive Income Visa and the Digital Nomad Visa. DNV. And here's the part people love: the income requirement isn't outrageous. Depending on where you plan to live, you're looking at roughly $820 to $1,000 a month in passive income. For many retirees, freelancers, or online workers, that number is not only reachable, it's refreshingly realistic compared to other Western European countries. Of course, you still need a few essentials. A 1-year lease. Yes, you need to secure housing before applying. Private health insurance. And a clean background check. But compared to most of Europe, Portugal's process is straightforward, even if it requires a little patience. Why so many Americans choose Portugal? For a lot of people, the magic of Portugal starts with how comfortable it feels on day 1. In Lisbon, Porto and across the Algarve coastline, English is widely spoken, which makes settling in far less intimidating. You don't feel lost. You don't feel out of place. Locals are used to interacting with foreigners, and the vibe is warm, calm, and relaxed. Then there's the healthcare, and this is where Americans' jaws usually drop. Portugal's healthcare costs are often 70 to 80% cheaper than the US, while still offering high-quality hospitals and clinics. It's one of the biggest reasons retirees especially feel relieved when they arrive. The climate is another major advantage. With mild winters and sunny summers, Portugal often feels like California, but at a fraction of the cost. Add in a large supportive expat community, and you'll quickly see why many Americans say Portugal gave them something they haven't felt in years: peace. But Portugal isn't perfect. Over the last 4 or 5 years, housing prices have increased significantly, especially in Lisbon and Porto. Tourism, digital nomads, and foreign buyers have all pushed demand upward. So while Portugal is still affordable, it's not the hidden gem it once was. Visa processing can also be slow, sometimes very slow. Portuguese bureaucracy has its charming moments, but efficiency isn't always one of them. You'll hear many expats joking, "This is Portugal. Things take time." And depending on your personality, the expat community can feel like both a comfort and a drawback. In some areas, there are so many foreigners that certain neighborhoods feel almost too international. If you're hoping for a deeply traditional Portuguese lifestyle, you may have to look outside the big cities. Taxes. Understanding the reality, Portugal does have a tax treaty with the United States, which removes a huge amount of stress for Americans worried about double taxation. And while the famous NHR program has changed, the system still provides tax benefits for pensioners and certain types of foreign income. 4. Spain. At number 4, we have Spain, one of the most talked about countries among Americans dreaming of a European life. Not because it's the cheapest, and not because it's the easiest, but because once you visit, it becomes almost impossible not to fall in love with it. Visas clear, real, and widely used by Americans. Spain offers 2 of the most accessible visas. Non-lucrative visa. NLV requires around £2,400 per month in passive income, plus a reasonable amount of savings. Digital nomad visa requires £2,646 per month, designed for remote workers and freelancers. Both pathways are established, familiar, and successfully used by thousands of Americans every year. No unrealistic income thresholds, no impossible criteria like you see in some Northern European countries. Why Americans fall in love with Spain? The first reason is simple: the weather. If you've ever endured the long winters of New York or Chicago, Andalusia, with its 320 days of sunshine a year, feels almost heavenly. Many Americans say they moved to Spain not to save money, but to save their mental health. The cost of living is another major advantage. Compared to the US, Spain is 40 to 50% cheaper, depending on the region. You can live in Valencia, Alicante, Malaga, or Granada on a comfortable budget, affordable groceries, a few euros for a coffee, and warm, cozy apartments that don't shock you every first of the month. Public transportation is one of Spain's strong points. Fast trains, regional trains, metros, buses, trams, all spacious, clean, and efficient. A huge advantage for anyone who doesn't want to drive everywhere, like in the US. And healthcare exceptional. Americans used to paying thousands for a single ER visit are often stunned by Spain's system, affordable, fast, and high quality. Many expats even call Spain the country that heals you literally and emotionally. But Spain does have its downsides. The biggest frustration for many Americans is that you must apply for your visa from your home country. You cannot apply while you're already in Spain. This makes the preparation process slower and more complicated. Spain also struggles with over-tourism, especially in Barcelona, Madrid, and Seville. During peak season, the crowds can be overwhelming, prices rise, and daily life in those areas becomes chaotic. And then there's something Americans often find charming at first, until they experience it for real: manana culture. In Spain, no one is in a hurry. Life moves slowly. Appointments can be pushed back. Shops may close unexpectedly. You call someone to fix your house, they say tomorrow, but tomorrow might mean next week. Some find this relaxing. Some absolutely lose their minds. Taxes surprisingly manageable. Spain does have a tax treaty with the United States, which helps reduce the stress of double taxation when living long-term. While Spain's tax system is more complex than Portugal's, the treaty makes things far easier for American expats. 3. Cyprus, Greek side. At number 3, we have a country that surprises almost everyone who researches European residency. Cyprus, specifically the Greek side of the island, a place where the Mediterranean feels endless. The lifestyle is slow in the best possible way, and the visa process is refreshingly straightforward for Americans. Visa, simple, realistic, and you can apply while you're already there. Cyprus offers what is known as the pink slip visa, and for many Americans, it's one of the most practical long-stay options in Europe. To qualify, you need a minimum income of $25,000 per year, a $4,000 deposit in a Cypriot bank, health insurance, and a basic medical exam. No extreme financial requirements, no impossible thresholds, no need to prove huge savings. And here's the part that makes Cyprus stand out. You can apply for this visa while you're already in Cyprus on a tourist entry. This is a massive advantage because it means you get to feel the island. First walk the neighborhoods, try the food, explore the beaches before committing to long-term residency. In a world where most European visas force you to apply from your home country, Cyprus feels like a breath of fresh Mediterranean air. Why Americans love Cyprus? Cyprus is the definition of island life without island prices. The climate is surprisingly similar to Southern California, long summers, mild winters, but the overall cost of living is significantly lower. Imagine waking up to warm breezes, eating by the sea, and having sunshine nearly all year, but without the impossible rent of Los Angeles or San Diego. English is widely spoken across the island, which means you can integrate quickly without struggling through day-one language shock. Whether you're dealing with landlords, cafes, banks, or supermarkets, communication feels natural and easy. Safety is another huge factor. Cyprus consistently ranks among the top 5 safest countries in the EU, making it especially appealing for retirees, solo travelers, and families who want peace of mind. And despite being an island in the Mediterranean, a region known for expensive real estate, rental prices in Cyprus remain surprisingly reasonable. Even in coastal towns, you can find good apartments without breaking your budget. But Cyprus isn't perfect. The summers can be hot, really hot. With temperatures soaring, you'll rely heavily on air conditioning, which leads to one of Cyprus's biggest downsides. Utilities can get expensive, especially in July and August. The island also experiences small but frequent earthquakes. They're usually harmless, but they can be unsettling for people who have never lived in a seismic zone. Lifestyle-wise, Cyprus moves at a slower pace than many Americans are used to. Businesses may take their time, schedules may be flexible, and urgency isn't a common cultural trait. For some, it's peaceful. For others, it's an adjustment. Taxes reassuring for Americans. Cyprus has a tax treaty with the United States, helping reduce the risks associated with double taxation. Combined with its favorable tax structure for foreign residents, the island is often praised as a financially friendly place to retire or work remotely. 2. Bulgaria. If you've ever dreamed of living in Europe but always feared the high cost. Bulgaria feels like a secret only well-traveled expats whisper to each other. It is one of the cheapest, easiest, and most practical countries for Americans who want a peaceful European life without needing an impossible income level. Visa. Clear, realistic, and accessible. Bulgaria offers one of the easiest retirement visas in the EU, with requirements that are surprisingly manageable. A minimum retirement income of about 933 euros a month, proof of 6 months of savings, and you must rent or purchase a home in Bulgaria. There is no digital nomad visa, no overly complicated system, but that simplicity is exactly why many Americans choose Bulgaria as their first European home. One downside: you must apply from the US. You cannot apply inside Bulgaria. But once you get through that step, everything that follows is refreshingly straightforward. Strengths: a place where every dollar stretches into a sea breeze. Bulgaria is the cheapest country in the European Union, and when you're living on Social Security or remote income, the difference is life-changing. Rent: $250,000 to $400 for a one-bedroom. Meals: $4.7. Coffee sometimes under $1. While other EU countries make you second-guess every small expense, Bulgaria lets you actually live, not merely get by. And since 2024-2025, Bulgaria has joined the Schengen zone, meaning once you have residency, traveling across Europe becomes effortless. Weekend in Italy, holidays in Greece, quick trips to Germany, France, or Spain. Nature, where the sea meets the mountains. Bulgaria isn't the name you see all over Instagram, but what you get is far beyond expectations. The Black Sea, long coastlines, calm waters, and far cheaper than any other EU seaside. The Rila Mountains, home to the Rila Monastery, and stunning hiking routes. Bansko. One of Europe's cheapest and most popular ski towns, full of retirees and digital nomads. Imagine waking up in a $300 apartment overlooking cobblestone streets, then taking a short train ride to the sea or the mountains on the weekend without worrying about cost. Limitations not perfect, but deeply livable. Bulgaria does come with some challenges. Cold winters, especially in mountain regions. Bulgarian is difficult, and outside Sofia English is not widely spoken. Bureaucracy can be slow and requires patience, but these same factors help keep the cost of living low and prevent the country from being overrun by tourists. Taxes, good news for Americans. Bulgaria has a tax treaty with the US, reducing the risk of double taxation, especially important for retirees living on Social Security or investment income. 1. Albania. Albania isn't just number one on this list. It is genuinely the easiest country in all of Europe for Americans to move to. Not because of some glamorous visa program, not because of complicated pathways, but because Albania offers something almost no other European nation does. Reason 1. Americans can stay in Albania for 1 full year with no visa. You simply arrive with your US passport, no paperwork, no income requirement, no bank deposit, no financial proof, no interviews, and you're allowed to stay a full 12 months. When that year ends, you simply leave for 90 days, return again, and the entire 1-year clock resets. For Americans who want to test drive life in Europe before committing to residency, this is almost a golden ticket. Official visas, if you want long-term residency. If you decide you want to stay beyond a year. Albania offers several straightforward options. Retirement. Visa only, about $12,000 year income. Digital nomad visa, around $32,000 leak/month. $1,500 $2,000. Investor visa, far lower requirements than most EU countries. No hidden rules. No unrealistic demands, no thick stacks of documents. Strengths, a place where a new life begins with surprising simplicity. Albania is one of the cheapest and easiest to live in countries in Europe. Coming from the US, where everything feels heavy and overpriced, Albania feels like stepping into a parallel world. Rent, 250,000 to 350 in Tirana. The capital, 400 in Saranda, often with a sea view. Meals, 4 to 6 coffee, 1 taxis, 3 to 5. But beyond affordability, Albania will surprise you with something deeper warmth. Albanians treat Americans exceptionally well in cafes, restaurants, grocery stores, taxis, and even small villages. They don't just tolerate expats, they welcome them like guests, like friends. And perhaps best of all, visa processing in Albania is fast, far faster than in Portugal or Spain. Albania is also the perfect home base for exploring Europe. Live here affordably for 12 months and fly to Italy, Greece, Germany, France on cheap short flights while maintaining a cost of living that is among the lowest on the continent. Limitations not perfect, but absolutely worth it. Albania is not part of Schengen. For some people, that sounds like a downside. But for American expats, it's actually a huge advantage because you avoid the 90-180 rule and can spend most of your year in Europe without overstaying. The infrastructure isn't Western European level. Yet roads can be uneven, railways limited, and traffic chaotic at times. But when you balance that with low costs, kind people, and relaxed living, many expats happily accept the trade-off. Taxes simple and not overwhelming. Albania has a tax agreement with the US, greatly reducing the risk of double taxation. Its tax system is far simpler than Western Europe, no overly complex rules or crushing bureaucracy. And now we've reached the end of our journey through the 5 European countries that open their doors the widest for Americans seeking a new chapter abroad. Portugal, 4, Spain, 3, Cyprus, 2, Bulgaria, and 1, Albania. Each one offers its own kind of beauty. Golden beaches, mountain valleys, quiet island life, ancient towns, or vibrant capital cities. But as I always remind you, beautiful doesn't mean easy, and popular doesn't mean possible. Just because a place looks perfect on Instagram doesn't mean the visa is simple, the cost is realistic, or the lifestyle fits your reality. What truly matters is finding a country where you are welcomed, where the visa makes sense, where your income can support your life, and where you can breathe a little easier. So now, I want to ask you directly, which one would you choose? Drop your number in the comments. Would you pick the gentle warmth of Portugal, the sunlight of Spain, the island calm of Cyprus, the surprising affordability of Bulgaria, or the unbelievable freedom of Albania? Tell me I read every comment. And if this guide helped you understand your options, gave you clarity, or sparked a little hope for a new life in Europe, then please like, subscribe, and check out our next guides on moving to Europe. Your new beginning might be closer than you imagine. I'll see you in the next video, where we continue exploring the world, one country at a time.